Hello, Management 425 students. I wanted to create just a short video for you all to wrap up our conversation on job satisfaction. I wanted to make sure that you were feeling confident for the exam on Wednesday and that you really had the opportunity to understand why job satisfaction is so important for managers to know about. So, if you've read the textbook, this information will not be new to you, but it will help reinforce what you've already read. If you've already printed out the PowerPoint slides for Chapter 4, I'm just going to go over those last few PowerPoint slides so that you can fill in as we go along through this video. I'm going to screen share, so you should be able to see the PowerPoint slides that are on my computer. And this slide should look familiar to you because we talked about it in class today. So this was the idea of affective events theory. Just briefly, affective events theory states that there are workplace events that occur, and these events are either negative or positive. So negative events are called daily hassles. Positive events are daily uplifts. And these work events influence how employees feel. They influence employees' emotions. So work events create affective reactions, which are emotions, and these emotions are then either positive or negative. So a daily hassle might be a customer that yells at you, and the emotion that results could be anger, or a daily uplift example might be a customer giving you praise, which might create a positive emotion like pride. We care about these emotions because in turn, they affect organizational behavior, and that includes employees' job satisfaction, so how they feel about their jobs, and it also includes their job performance, so how they actually perform at work, including citizenship behaviors and counterproductive work behaviors. Generally speaking, positive emotions are going to result in increased satisfaction and an increased number of citizenship behaviors, and negative emotions are going to decrease satisfaction and decrease citizenship behaviors and increase counterproductive work behaviors. Right? So we care about these events because they create emotions, and those emotions affect how employees feel about their jobs and how they behave at work. These emotions can be positive or negative. Again, we talked about this slide in class. And the general takeaway is that positive emotions are going to increase satisfaction and negative emotions are going to decrease satisfaction. So as managers, we want to try to increase positive emotions and decrease negative emotions in the workplace. One reason we care about emotions is that our employees might be required to manage their emotions as part of their job. Just like they have to complete their job tasks, they might also be expected to display certain emotions at work. And this is the idea of emotional labor. The idea is that employees feel a need to manage their emotions in order to complete their job duties. So if you work at Starbucks, you must create coffee and take orders, but it's also probably expected that you do so with a smile on your face and that you display that you are happy. So in certain jobs, especially those that are customer service oriented, employees have to manage their emotions in order to meet the requirements of their job. And they can manage these emotions in two ways. The first way is what we call surface acting. So this is when employees basically wear a mask at work. They display emotions that they do not actually feel. So here you might show up to work and you might not be feeling happy, but you're required to be happy. So you paste a smile on your face, even though you don't really feel happy. The second way employees can manage their emotions is through deep acting. And this is when employees make an effort to actually try to feel what they are expected to show. So if you're expected to show that you're happy, they try to think of a happy thoughts, they try to go to a happy place, they try to really make themselves feel like they have these positive emotions. That way they're able to then show positive emotions authentically. So with surface acting, you're basically faking. And with deep acting, you are trying to actually show the emotions that your workplace wants you to show. From research, we know that in general, deep acting is going to yield more positive results for our employees than surface acting. So we really want our employees to feel positive emotions, not simply put on a mask. Another reason that we care about emotions in the workplace is because emotions can spread through the workplace. And this is what we call emotional contagion. So the way that our employees feel can spread from one employee to another, can spread throughout an entire department. This is okay if the emotions being spread are positive, like happiness and excitement and enthusiasm, but can be really detrimental to the organization if employees have bad emotions like anger or jealousy or envy or disgust, whatever they might be. So, we want to make sure that we're managing emotions and managing those events that trigger emotions so that we are trying to increase positive emotions and decrease negative emotions since we know emotions can spread. So, we can take all this information together and it can give us um, a picture of why employees are more satisfied than others. This will match exactly what was written on the whiteboard in the classroom. So if we want to know how to make our employees satisfied, if we want to know why some employees are more satisfied than others, we can look to three things. The first are values. Do the values of our employees, are they being met by the job? So we can look at these five values from value percept theory, and we can measure whether or not these are being fulfilled. So are our employees getting what they want? We can also look at characteristics of the job itself and how the job is structured. And this is the idea of job characteristic theory. So there are five characteristics, and we can try to increase all of these job characteristics in order to make jobs more interesting and more meaningful. So when we look at jobs, if they're high in variety and high in identity, high in significance, then they're more likely to be interesting and meaningful jobs, and our employees are more likely to be satisfied. So the takeaway here is that we're trying to increase each of these characteristics. And then lastly, we can understand whether or not our employees are satisfied by looking at their moods and emotions. Here, we know that positive moods are going to be related to increased job satisfaction, and negative moods are going to be related to decreased satisfaction. So, our goal as a manager is to try to foster positive, intense moods and positive emotions. We can foster positive moods by trying to create that state of flow, and we can foster positive emotions through the use of daily uplift events. So, taken together, if we want to know why our employees are satisfied or not, we can look at these values, we can look at the characteristics of the jobs, and then we can look at moods and emotions. So, this slide here is what you can expect to see at the end of all of our chapters going forward. It provides a summary of how each new topic is going to relate to those two outcomes that we care about in organizational behavior. So again, in organizational behavior, there are two outcomes that we care about, and those are job performance and organizational commitment. So here, looking at job satisfaction, we can use that to predict job performance and organizational commitment. So the correlation between job satisfaction and job performance is 0.30. So this is a positive and moderate relationship. As job satisfaction increases, job performance also increases. So we know that job satisfaction is going to foster creativity. So it's going to be related to that creative task performance. Job satisfaction is going to help employees be better able to problem solve, which is related to adaptive performance. Job satisfaction positively relates to OCBs. So when we're more satisfied, we're more likely to engage in citizenship behaviors. And job satisfaction is negatively related to counterproductive behaviors. So when we're more satisfied, we are less likely to engage in counterproductive work behaviors. So taken together, on the whole, the relationship between job satisfaction and job performance is positive, and it's moderately positive. So for the exam, I want you to be able to explain how these two things are related. How is job satisfaction related to job performance? And can you interpret that relationship? Again, as job satisfaction increases, job performance should also increase. We can also look at the relationship between job satisfaction and organizational commitment. And this is a positive but strong correlation. So as job satisfaction increases, turns out organizational commitment also increases. We know that job satisfaction is strongly correlated with affective commitment. So as job satisfaction increases, our employees want to stay at the organization because they like the work they do. And job satisfaction is also strongly correlated with organizational commitment, but more specifically with normative commitment. So as employee job satisfaction increases, they stay at the organization because they feel like they should. So again, on the whole, taken together, we can say that job satisfaction is positively and strongly correlated with organizational commitment, so that as job satisfaction goes up, organizational commitment also goes up. And this is good, right? This is good. So if we want our employees to perform well and we want them to stay, we need to pay attention to their levels of job satisfaction. So how do we do that? How then do we measure job satisfaction? How do we know if our employees are satisfied or not? This slide here relates to the very last section in the textbook that talks about ways to measure job satisfaction. So the single best way to measure job satisfaction is through employee surveys. So employee attitude surveys allow employees to give honest, anonymous feedback about their perceptions of the job. Once we get these surveys, we're able to use this information to tell us something about the workplace. So after we collect all that information, we have to analyze the data. We can use that data to look at differences across facets of job satisfaction. So we might find that our employees are very satisfied with their pay, but not very satisfied with their promotion opportunities. So using these surveys can help us hone in on where we need to improve. We can also look at differences across departments or across units or between managers and subordinates to see if there are differences based on where employees are working. So perhaps individuals in management are very satisfied, but subordinates are not. That can help us hone in on where we can improve. After we've analyzed this data, we also need to share it with our employees. And this is the idea of feedback. So we should share our results with our employees so that they know we've taken their information and their feedback into account and we're using it. Next, it's not enough to just say that we're going to, measure attitudes, but we need to do something with those attitudes. And this is the idea of action. So organizations need to take steps to improve satisfaction. So if you've noticed that there are areas where you can continue to improve, then you need to take some steps to actually improve them. If your employees feel like they don't have a lot of promotion opportunities, maybe creating mentoring programs or training opportunities can help employees to improve that facet of satisfaction. Lastly, we need to know if the actions we're taking are making a difference. And this is the idea of improvement. So we need to measure attitudes again. So we measured it the first time, then we made some changes. Now we need to measure them again to see if we are actually making improvements. Has satisfaction increased? I know this feels like a lot of information, and more or less, I want you to have this information for when you go out into the world and you are managers and you need to know how you can improve satisfaction and measure it among your employees. For the exam, the really important takeaway point is how we measure satisfaction, and that is through surveys. The best way to measure attitudes is through surveys because they're anonymous. It allows employees to give honest feedback without feeling like they are being singled out. So if you want to measure employee job satisfaction, you should administer a survey to do so. You will not be required to list the rest of these steps, but I think some of your training here in my class is to know how to actually implement these different types of things that you're learning. Can you go out and implement these concepts? So for the exam, you don't have to list all 5 steps, but you do need to know that employee surveys are the best way to capture job satisfaction. Okay, and this is our final slide. This maps onto that activity I had you do at the very beginning of class. So I've outlined my main takeaways for this class so far, and you can see whether or not your main takeaways align with what I think you should be getting out of the class. So going back to chapter 1, really the basis here is that we need to use research to drive organizational change. So any changes we make to improve our employees' performance or improve their commitment should be based in research and not just based off of gut feelings. We need to understand that job performance is complex, and included within job performance are 3 different facets: that task performance, organizational citizenship behaviors, as well as counterproductive work behaviors. So we need to be measuring all three of these things in order to have a holistic understanding of performance. Focusing on the results is not sufficient, right? So we need to focus on employee behaviors. We need to be capturing what employees do and don't do, so focusing specifically on behaviors. We can do that through job analysis. So we can use job analysis to identify important behaviors and then conduct performance evaluations in a way that captures all three types of job performance. We don't just want our employees to perform well, right? That's one part, but we also want our good performers to stay. So we need to pay attention to both job performance and organizational commitment. And one reason for this is because turnover is really expensive. It uses time and resources and money in order to fill positions when employees leave. So we want our good performers to stay. And we know that our committed employees are going to perform better, and those committed employees are more likely to weather the storm. So when negative events occur, our committed employees are going to be more likely to stick through those negative events with us. And one way that we can predict whether or not our employees are going to perform well and whether or not they want to stay is through job satisfaction. So we want our employees to be satisfied. And just like everything else in this class, satisfaction is nuanced. So there are many different facets we need to look at to determine whether or not an employee is satisfied. And we can use that information to help shape jobs and shape work environments that are going to increase satisfaction. Okay, that's our job as a manager, is to take a look at the environment and figure out whether or not we are crafting an environment that's going to create satisfaction through those job characteristics. And as a result, we know that satisfaction and satisfied employees are going to perform better and are going to be more likely to stay. And finally, paying attention to that environment we create and the moods and emotions that we foster, we can predict employee job satisfaction by focusing on creating positive moods and positive emotions. Okay? So these are my main takeaways from this class. I hope that your main takeaways map on or at least touched on some of these same ideas. So back to me again, that's the end of the presentation. You can rewatch this a couple of times if you want to go back and capture all of those notes. I really want you to be able to understand why job satisfaction is important. I want you to know the relationship between job satisfaction and job performance. I want you to know the relationship between job satisfaction and organizational commitment. I also want to make sure you understand that affective events theory and those three steps within the theory. Okay? Do you understand how those work events trigger emotions and how in turn those emotions affect employee behavior? You have 2 full days to study. I really believe in you guys. If you've been coming to class, if you've been taking notes, if you've been reading your textbook, you are going to be fine. You are going to perform well. You've been putting in the time. It will pay off. Now's the time to check in about what you're not sure about, if there are any concepts that are unclear to you, and then send me an email. Check back in. I'm happy to help you. I'm here in my office all day. I'll be here all day tomorrow. If there's any questions at all I can help you with, please come see me. Please send me an email. Okay? You can do it. Study hard. Get lots of rest tomorrow night. Make sure you eat breakfast and come in feeling energized and being able to really celebrate and showcase what you have learned so far. Okay? Best of luck to you guys. Please contact me if I can help you in any way. Okay? Happy studying. Bye.